If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck.
Quack, quack. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, then maybe it's a duck. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Happy Friday. We made it. Friday the 13th, though. Look out.
No, God!
Don't panic.
No, God!
Everything's going to be all right now.
No!
Joining us live to keep us safe from all the ghosts and ghouls, the creepy crawlies that might be coming to get us. That bad luck, we'll wish it away. You don't have to, though, because we've got the greatest good luck charm of all. My sweet, smoking hot, red-headed, sweetheart wife, Steffi.
I've had a really weird Friday the 13th so far.
Yeah, you tell us about it, Steffi. Tell us about your weird Friday the 13th. Did it start with the deer in our backyard?
No, it started with Hazel waking up in the middle of the night and she vomited randomly and she was like, just really cranky. And then this morning we got, and it also started with George vomiting, he's not feeling well. And then this morning at 3-something, there was a cat, not a black cat. Yeah, thankfully it was not a black cat. On our front porch, seeking refuge from the rainstorm. And then at 5-something this morning, there was a deer that Calvin is actually friends with. They play a lot. And he jumped over our fence and ate all of our bird seed, but left my garden alone, thankfully.
Yeah, George was all sick last night and acting weird, and it was just a really strange
And then I had a
night.
dream that the world was ending. I mean, Friday the 13th is real, y'all.
Well, it turns out that the world is ending because we are looking down the barrel of World War III.
I just asked you just the other day. Do you remember me? I said, "Do you think World War III is going to happen in our lifetime?"
And I said no.
Yeah.
And I said, I hope not.
I know, and we were talking about the impact that it would have on Hazel, and how it would just mess our whole life up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So tell me more.
So Israel launched more attacks against Iran. It looks like they actually have like 10 days of strikes planned, 14 days of operations. The Prime Minister Israel Benjamin Netanyahu said the operation would last as long as it takes. Their commander Hossein Salami and 2 other generals were killed. No idea about the whereabouts of General Pepperoni, but Hossein Salami is killed.
Oh my goodness! You're full of jokes in the midst of World War III. Are you kidding me?
If you're gonna laugh, if you're gonna have World War III, it might as well be funny.
When you say as long as it takes, what are we waiting for?
Until
there's peace in the Middle East? Like, is this what we're waiting for?
I have no idea. But the good news is that our oil stocks are doing well.
So gas prices are going up.
Gas prices are going up, and
great! I should have filled up yesterday.
Yes, that's the thing. So the Wake Up America show's live stream is going to be hosted by you and I, but we have 2 incredible guests here on the Wake Up America show today. We're going to have Stelios Panagiotou, which I think is how we pronounce it. Is Greek. And I'm not sure, but I'm sure he's going to help us. We did the phonetic. What did we do this morning to try and get the show?
Before the show, I went on those websites where it'll pronounce words for you, and it did a really terrible here. Let me play it, see if you guys can hear it.
So that's how the last name is pronounced according to put that right up to the microphone, Stephanie, so that they can hear that. Panagiotou. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna be. I don't think that's how it's gonna be spelled.
That's how we're gonna pronounce it because that's what the computer said. We have to go with what it said. It is the Bible now.
Yeah. So Stelios, he is from the Lotus podcast. He's a classical liberal in an ocean of authoritarian right wingers. And we're looking forward to having him on. I've been following his tweets for weeks and weeks now. And has a lot of interesting things to say. It's going to be quite a big brain conversation between us. So I'll look forward to hearing from him at 7:30 a.m. Central Time At 8 a.m. this morning, we've got Justin. That's going to be fun.
Yay, he's big brain too.
Yes.
You're all big brain. I'm the only one who's like with AOC in terms
Yeah.
of my brain size.
No, Stephanie. That's not true. We're going to speak to Justin. So we've got Stelios on the show today. We've got Justin on the show today. It's Freedom Family Friday. We're going to have an absolute blast today. Hope you guys enjoy the Wake Up America show.
That's right. That's right.
We're going to have so two great guests, and we've got a fantastic show. So make sure that you guys click the like button. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we hope that you'll become regular guests. And the easiest way to do that is to click the follow button as well. When you click the follow button, you'll get a notification when we go live. And the show schedule is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time here. The Wake Up America show streams live. So make sure that you click that follow button, and you'll get, a notification on your phone when we do go live. We'd love to have you be a regular guest of the Wake Up America show. Hopefully the microphone situation is better. And you're like, I hope that I see the chat is like, why aren't you checking the chat first thing to see
I'm checking the chat.
And it's like, that we absolutely do. But by the time we see your text message, and by the while I'm freaking out and trying to get the show hosted and set everything up, I'm furiously pushing buttons and pulling up gain and things. For whatever reason, the computer just decides to completely change the settings overnight, even though nothing was touched, nothing was shut down. It's just womp womp. It just loves to fuck with
do you
me.
think Dad Bod Baboon was referring to me playing the audio in the microphone?
Well,
Maybe that's what he was talking about. I have
whatever,
no idea.
yeah, I
you know,
don't
like
know.
sometimes a lot of these things that you guys say, like we don't know the context of them, so
Yeah.
we're just like assuming.
Exactly. Like you type something in the chat and you think like, oh, the context is obvious. It's not necessarily obvious. And
Right.
there's like, how many buttons do we have in front of us here, Stephanie? Would you say, if you had to guess?
Oh my goodness,
3,000 buttons sitting right here in front of us. So we've got a whole
Yes.
team.
Hazel would love this.
Yeah.
She would push all the buttons.
Exactly. So
Do you know what Hazel did last night? I gotta
What did
share
she
this
do last
story.
night,
So
Steffi?
we went to Chili's for the first time in like 15 years, and so they have these little like computer like iPad things where you can like pay your bill, right? And then they also have games that you can play. So I always thought you have to put in your credit card to play a game. So I had Hazel, just kind of like pushing around on her little iPad there. And all of a sudden she starts playing a basketball game. And I'm like, wow, well, that's cool. They're giving us a free trial or something. The bill comes to the table at the end and we're charged for this game package.
you got to watch your kids at the restaurants with those little consoles, because if they start playing with those consoles, you might start getting charges that you don't recognize.
Oh my
in the
gosh.
end.
And so luckily, like the waitress was super nice and she was like, this happens like twice a day where little kids start pressing on the iPad thing. And so they took it off our bill, but beware, you apparently do not have to enter in your credit card before playing the games like
and-
I thought you do.
Yeah, and forgive us for being distracted from the discussion on World War III, from a discussion about eating at Chili's. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
And I just thought it was so funny. We're talking about buttons.
The commander who was killed, by the way, his name was Hussein Salami.
Wow.
So the the general pepperoni joke.
Oh,
I
are
felt that
people
was
like
appropriate.
offended by it or something?
Who gives a shit if they're offended
And
anyway?
by the way, I want to say
if they're offended, they're in the wrong podcast.
I also want to say good morning to Liberty Tonight. You rocked it last night, Brian
Dude,
Piotr,
yes,
Liberty Maximus.
let's give it up for Brian.
Absolutely. I was chiming in the best I could. Obviously, it was pretty late, but it looked like the chat was booming last night. So kudos to you, and thank you for being here this morning to support us as well.
Do you guys watch Liberty Tonight? You really
That's
should.
right.
I mean,
Every Thursday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time.
yeah, Liberty Tonight shows. Brian says Texas Roadhouse is the #1 family restaurant of all time. Changed my mind. Sorry,
Don't
but
get me started.
Boo.
Don't get me. We got food poisoning. I got food poisoning.
We're Texas
terribly.
Roadhouse haters.
Oh my goodness.
It's like I listen. Here's the thing. I'm a snob, and so I'm gonna say something really snobbish. But that food is shit. Okay, it's for, and I know I'm gonna offend everybody in our audience here by talking shit about America's most famous restaurant. But that is food for people who have no taste. It is just.
Your dad is probably not going to come visit us now because you just said that.
It is so bland. Let me tell you something. If your steak needs mushrooms and onions on top of it, then that's a sign that your steak is terrible.
And you have to pay extra for the mushrooms and onions, and they taste terrible. Usually,
Yeah,
I
they're
push
gross.
them off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awful. It's disgusting. You're so much better off going to any other steakhouse. So it's like, why would you go to Texas Roadhouse? Don't go there for steak. You can get a better steak anywhere else.
The bread rolls.
The bread rolls are probably what made us puke, or made us. Like, it wasn't puking. We were puking out our butts.
It was coming from all ends. It was terrible.
Everywhere.
It lasted for like 5 days. I swear.
We ate Texas
my
Roadhouse,
goodness.
and then we had a 2.5-hour drive home from Kansas City, and I had to stop. We thought that
You
we
had
were
to
going
stop at a military base.
Yeah,
to
we
go to
thought we thought we were going to get arrested by the military police because we pulled into the military base. Oh, I've got to go to the bathroom. I want to shit my pants.
You started World War III at the military
Exactly.
base. Oh my god. Oh man.
You know what? There are some things that are worse than World War III, and it's Texas Roadhouse's food. It's terrible.
Oh my god, I'm crying. Oh.
Exactly. I'd rather go to Waffle House.
Well, Waffle House is good.
Yeah. So I guess we started World War III in the chat. We're going to have an absolute blast today on the Wake Up America show today,
talking about
guys.
blasts. Oh, dang. Shoot.
General Pepperoni is going to launch a strike on us.
Right on our house, apparently.
Listen,
We do have salami in the fridge, actually.
We do. I know, because you won't eat the pepperoni because it's got the pigs. We do have bonus content for you today. I'm not going to shove it down your throat. If you guys want to eat it, then it's all up to you. Unlocking the bonus content costs $75, and you can either unlock bonus content in one of two ways. You can either drop Rumble Rants in the chat, or you can go to forlibertyshop.com. That's what I recommend you do, because we do have an awesome sale going on right now. Our Gulf of America beach towels are buy one, get one, 25% off. So if you've been
With
looking...
Golf 25, GULF 25.
Yeah, use your code GULF25. That's GULF25. When you put 2 towels in your cart, then you will drop the coupon code in there. You'll get 1 towel 25% off. It's a great way to save money and to get a couple of awesome towels for this summer. Go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com to unlock that bonus content today. And if you guys want to help support the show and unlock the bonus content, then all we need to do is raise $75. Quest Fanning says, I spent a whole $1. Well, we appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, you guys, you're all making me laugh this morning. I must be slap happy. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, because the whole situation with the baby last night, and then George being all sick, and you were upset about that. Let's talk about immigration.
What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen, and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look, and people they've been there for 20, 25 years, and they've worked great, and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else, and then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense.
Mass deportations are off.
Oh, so he's just picking and choosing who he deports. So if you work for a hotel or a farm.
Well, here's the thing. So here's what he's saying. He's saying that the farmers are complaining because they're losing all of their laborers. And Trump is saying that even in some cases, like the criminals are now that are still here are stepping in to do the jobs. Mm-hmm. But it was just like a few days ago that Trump's supporters were attacking Thomas Massie. They were saying that that all of the illegal aliens are criminals. We have to deport them all. And he's not voting for the big, beautiful bill that's going to deport all of the criminals. And now Donald Trump has come out and said that they're going to revisit his policy, which he says was, again, too aggressive. Let's hear it again now.
About targeting in California farmers farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business.
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great.
They turned out to be great.
Do something about
Those illegal aliens. That's who he's talking
so
about.
great.
They're great.
Yeah. We actually, for our internet company, the internet that we just got, the workers that came out to help us with the lines, they didn't speak English. We had to literally use Google Translate.
Yeah, he didn't speak English. He didn't speak a word of English. Come on.
Yeah, and then the guys that buried the line just the other day, a whole car full of immigrants.
But like it used to be, here's the thing. Like it used to be, and this is why we're different from other like right wingers. It used to be that Republicans would get really mad if you have to press one for English or something.
Oh, you still have to do that all
all
the
right, well,
time.
that was like a big like attack. That's like, oh my God, we shouldn't have to do that in our country.
Right.
But like when the guy came with Google Translate, I was like, I'm excited. I like to use technology.
It was bringing back Japan memories.
yeah.
I mean, we used Google Translate
Well, see,
constantly.
that's
in
why
Japan.
we're not like other bears because because Republicans, typical Republicans, especially MAGA people, are like, I shouldn't have to do that in my country, and they would never figure out how to use that technology anyway. They'd be so mad about it. They boomer post for nowadays. But you and I were kind of like, ooh, fun, Google Translate, all that kind of stuff. You know?
Absolutely.
And
It works like a charm.
That's why we'll never fit in.
Yeah.
And we'll never fit in with to average Republicans because stuff like that, we're kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I like to use this technology. Ooh, I want to find a way to communicate with them. But we're supposed to be mad. We're supposed to be like, you speak English in this country.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yo hablo inglés.
We're very angry about it,
God.
but I'm just not pissed off enough to be a good Republican, I guess. I like to learn and to learn about interesting new cultures. And some people, they like to go overseas and learn about interesting new cultures and meet new interesting people and kill them.
Absolutely. Oh, my goodness.
Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We've got Stelios Panagiotou. He'll be joining us this morning at about 10 minutes from now. We're looking forward to having him on the show today. It's going to be kind of a high-minded conversation. He's kind of like us. And he, in terms of his thinking, he's a classical liberal type, and I've seen a lot of his conversations. He's on one of the biggest podcast networks in the UK. They're called the Lotus Eaters.
Oh, so he'll have an accent.
Yes. He's going to be joining us this morning in 10 minutes. We're going to talk to him a little bit about classical liberalism and sort of like why more people like ourselves are on our back feet. Here's the thing. I thought that classical liberalism was dead. I thought libertarianism essentially was dead until I heard, and honestly, until I heard Donald Trump saying things like this.
Look, I've always been in favor of students coming in from other countries. That includes China. And we have 500,000 Chinese students coming in. I've always been in favor of it. Does it mean that you have to watch people? Yeah, you have to watch students, but you have to watch other people also. I've always been strongly in favor of it. I think it's a great thing. It's good for our schools. I think it's good for our country. I'm also in favor of having them stay. I've been in favor of letting them stay. If you get educated for 4 years, you're willing to get educated for 4 years. I like people being able to stay. They have some great students.
Yeah, the MAGA supporters are mad at that stuff. They hate that.
I was listening to a video the other day that said that hikers that are foreign or people that are coming here to travel, they have to get some sort of certification or visa or something in order to stay here for over 30 days.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, our immigration process and even our visa process, our travel visa process, our whole immigration travel situation is just screwed every 7 ways from Sunday.
So he's saying I love people to come here, but then he's saying don't stay here for more than 30 days unless you get special approval.
Here's the thing. If you come to the United States and you go to an American university, you come here on a student visa and you are educated at an American university, and say you become like a doctor at an American university, a lot of taxpayer dollars went to that university more than likely. So American taxpayers paid in part to educate that doctor. Do you want that doctor going back to Turkestan or China or Russia or wherever they're from? Do you want them to take all of the skills, all of the money that we spent investing in that person and then send them back overseas to their country, and then we don't get to benefit from having that doctor here in the United States? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right, it doesn't.
But that's what Trump is talking about here. But here's the thing: the MAGA faithful, the people who are surrounding Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and all these people, they're on suicide watch listening to that, because that they want everybody, they want people to be deported if they're second and third generation Americans. They don't want, like, if you haven't been in this, if your family can't trace yourself back to the Civil War, you're out of the United States.
I guess he better deport me to Russia, because my great-grandmother was from Russia.
Yeah,
so I'm going back to Putin,
yeah,
apparently.
I think J.D. Vance was on Theo Vaughn's podcast the other day, and he was talking about the list of people. You can go and see if your name is listed in the Civil War registry for names of people who fought in the Civil War.
Oh, great.
So, I mean,
Your family did.
Yeah. So I get to stay, but you know, I'm sorry, Stephanie. We're gonna have to tear you guys
going.
apart. We're
I'm
done.
going back to the camps, apparently.
You're going back to
Just-
southern Russia.
They're sending me back to Israel. Yeah. Wow. All right. I'll just see my way out, I guess.
So, love to hear your thoughts on this and more. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open at 573-319-1586. BB for Liberty says they're one step away from saying that you only wanting you here if you have blonde hair and blue eyes. Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that, because I saw the other day that somebody had said that only English can be considered Americans. Only people with English ancestry could be considered as Americans, which
I think I do have some of that on my dad's side.
maybe somewhere, right? But
Yeah.
but what? No Danish? What? We're too sprechen Sie Deutsch? What? We're just a little bit too Germanic for you here in the United States. It's just so many people are so ridiculous these days when it comes to the immigration, when it comes to foreigners and globalism and globalization. People just, like, they need to settle down, and they need to, it's kind of like the people who are like, oh my God, we're going to go to World War III. Probably not. Right? Probably we're not going to go into World War III. Let's hear
day.
it. Oh, you think we're going to go? They're going to send you and your sweet little redheaded, pink-lipped, mascara faced. They're going to send you to World War III, Stephanie, huh?
No, not me.
No, who are
but
they
they're going to send little Hazel.
No, they're not going to send Hazel.
When she's 18?
No, they will not.
I mean, luckily I'm too old, but they're going to send Mario. They're going to send our nephew.
Well, Mario might join the Marines, so if that sense, he signed up for it. Drew Van Runkle says, if Wang Chung wants to go back to China to work after getting educated here, maybe he will tell his friends about how awesome freedom is. Well, that's very optimistic of you, Drew.
I mean, in terms of world peace, I think it's a great thing, because then you educate people, send them off to foreign countries, and then hopefully, you're right, they do spread the word, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if world peace is going to come from us educating foreigners. I'm not sure.
No.
Maybe we need to bring people from the Middle East here, educate them, and then they can, educate their people over there.
I just think it
That
doesn't.
might be good.
Yeah, I just think it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But what do I know? Brian Piotr over in the chat. He went this morning to the For Liberty shop.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
And he decided to unlock the bonus content. So you guys are so
my
lucky.
gosh.
Here's the thing: we got to go get Stelios. Stelios. What's
and
the
we'll
deal?
ask him how to pronounce his name.
What's the dealios with Stelios? We'll be right back. Thank you very much to Brian Piotr. Everybody say thank you to Brian,
Oh, Brian.
and Andy Opperman and Quest Fanning. Doesn't mean don't stop the rockin' or the bang bang boogity, up jump the boogie, the boogity beat. Keep dropping those rumble rants. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Years ago, Melinda Vincent was convicted of bank fraud because she paid for groceries with a bad check for $498. Although bank fraud can be punished by up to 30 years in prison under federal law, Vincent was sentenced to probation, which she successfully completed before earning 3 university degrees and launching a career as a social worker. In 2016, she founded the Utah Harm Reduction Coalition, which aims to provide evidence-based interventions to aid people in reducing health and social harms associated with substance use. Vincent, in short, has been law-abiding and productive for many years. But because her 2008 conviction involved a crime punishable by more than a year of incarceration, she permanently lost her Second Amendment rights under 18 U.S.C. 922G. They won. That means she is not legally allowed to own a gun for self-defense or even possess one while hunting with her children.
Those burdens, Vincent's lawyers argue in a Supreme Court petition, are unconstitutional as well as unjust. They say the case, Vincent versus Bondi, provides an ideal vehicle for resolving a circuit split on the question of whether the Second Amendment allows the government to disarm people based on nothing more than a nonviolent criminal conviction. Section 922G(1) applies to millions of Americans with no history of violence. According to the Prison Policy Initiative, about 19 million Americans have felony records. In FY 2023, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS, reports just 4.4% of federal felony convictions involve violent crimes. Older BJS data indicate that less than a fifth of state felony convictions involve violent offenses. Those numbers, Vincent's petition says, suggest that over 80% of state offenders and over 95% of federal offenders have improperly lost their right to self-defense because of Section 922G(1). Under the test established by the Supreme Court's 2022 decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, the question is whether that policy is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. No, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit concluded in a 2023 case involving a Pennsylvania man who had been convicted of food stamp fraud. As applied to that man, the Third Circuit ruled in Range versus Attorney General, Section 922G(1) failed the Bruin test. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit reached a different conclusion in Vincent's case. In 2023, the appeals court ruled that Bruin did not affect the validity of its prior judgment that the blanket ban imposed by Section 922G(1) is constitutional. It noted that the justices had previously suggested, in the landmark 2008 case District of Columbia versus Heller, that long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons were consistent with the Second Amendment, language that was quoted in Bruin, which didn't appear to question the constitutionality of such laws. The Supreme Court subsequently vacated the 10th Circuit's ruling and remanded the case for reconsideration in light of United States versus Rahimi, its 2024 decision upholding a prosecution for violating the federal ban on gun possession by people subject to domestic violence restraining orders. Last February, the 10th Circuit again rejected Vincent's challenge to Section 922G(1), saying Heller's instruction that felon dispossession laws are presumptively valid was reaffirmed in Rahimi. Three other federal appeals courts, the 4th Circuit, the 8th Circuit, and the 11th Circuit, have agreed that Bruin does not require any distinction among the absurdly broad range of people covered by Section 922G(1). But the 5th Circuit and the 6th Circuit have joined the 3rd Circuit in allowing as-applied challenges to the law, although they rejected them in those particular cases. Vincent wants the Supreme Court to resolve this split in favor of the latter view. The 10th Circuit refused to apply the analysis mandated by Bruin and Rahimi, her petition notes. Under that analysis, text, history, and tradition show that the government cannot permanently disarm Ms. Vincent, a single mother, social worker, adjunct college professor, and nonprofit founder with 2 graduate degrees, solely because of one 17-year-old conviction for passing a bad check. When the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791, there was no history or tradition of permanently disarming nonviolent offenders, Vincent's lawyers say. No evidence has emerged of any significant founding-era firearms restrictions on citizens like Ms. Vincent, who committed only nonviolent offenses and posed no physical threat to others. While the historical record suggests that dangerousness sometimes supported disarmament, conviction status alone did not connote dangerousness to the founding generation. The petition emphasizes the lack of early precedent for a gun ban as sweeping as Section 922G(1). No founding-era evidence has emerged of class-wide, lifetime bans on firearms possession, merely because of conviction status. In fact, total bans on felon possession existed nowhere until at least the turn of the 20th century. Vincent's lawyers note that Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, as a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit, saw little historical support for the policy embodied in Section 922G(1). History demonstrates that legislatures have the power to prohibit dangerous people from possessing guns. Barrett wrote in a 2019 dissent, but that power extends only to people who are dangerous. That category, she thought, did not include someone who was convicted of mail fraud because he misrepresented the characteristics of the shoe inserts he sold. Vincent's petition also cites a 2020 Law Review article by Joseph G.S. Greenlee, Director of Research at the Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, who delves further into the relevant history in a brief that the FPC, joined by the National Rifle Association and the Second Amendment Foundation, filed in support of Vincent's petition. America's historical tradition of firearm regulation provides support for the disarmament of only dangerous persons, disaffected persons posing a threat to the government, and persons with a proven proclivity for violence, the FPC et al. Say. This limited tradition of disarming dangerous persons has been practiced for centuries. It was reflected in the debates and proposed amendments from the Constitution ratifying conventions, and throughout American history. By contrast, there is no tradition of disarming peaceable people, the brief says. Historically, nonviolent criminals, including nonviolent felons, who did not demonstrate a propensity for violence, retained the ability to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. Indeed, some laws expressly allowed or even required them to keep and bear arms. Section 922G(1), which UCLA law professor Adam Winkler rightly calls wildly over-inclusive, defies common sense as well as the Second Amendment. The ban, which was first imposed in 1961 as an amendment to the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, applies regardless of how long ago someone was convicted, the nature of the offense, the penalty that was actually imposed, or how the offender has behaved in the years since. To give a sense of how senseless that is, Vincent's lawyers note that adultery is a felony punishable by 5 years imprisonment in Michigan, that repeatedly sharing streaming websites' passwords is a felony in Tennessee, that using a telephone to make a single anonymous call to annoy or embarrass, and temporarily using someone else's car without their consent are both punishable by more than a year of imprisonment in Maryland, and that recklessly defacing a school building, something countless teenage pranksters have done, is a felony in Arizona. They add that federal law also includes many felonies that involve no danger, such as knowingly and unlawfully exporting any fish or wildlife, and making an unauthorized recording of a movie in a theater. Whether engaging in any of these acts forfeits the right to self-defense is an important question this court should answer, the petition says. And unless the Supreme Court intervenes, Vincent's lawyers warn Section 922G(1) will continue to deter countless peaceful Americans from possessing firearms for self-defense, with no real benefit to public safety.
Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. That's on the 4 Liberty Network. Glad to have you here. Today's Friday. We made it. Hope you guys are in a good mood. If you're not, I think you will be by the end of the show. But you know what? The easiest way to make everybody smile is to just bring on my beautiful, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you.
And everybody smiles. How you doing, Steffi?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm still laughing from earlier.
Oh, yeah, about the World War III breaking out because of us having to go use the bathroom at the military base.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we might have to cut
Oh, my God.
Please stop snorting into the microphone. We've got serious things happening. It's Friday the 13th, and World War III might be breaking out. Trump warns Iran of even more brutal attacks if there's no nuclear deal. The head of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard was killed in the strikes as Israel launched attacks on Iran. Wide-ranging strikes on the country's nuclear program and their military leadership. The head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard killed. Dozens of targets were hit, and Israel says prepare for more. Here to join us now to discuss that and some big brain philosophical stuff is someone whose tweets I've been enjoying for weeks now. He is with the Lotus Eaters podcast. His name is Stelios Panagiotou, and he's joining us live right now here on the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Stelios. Nice to see you.
Good morning, and I'm very thrilled to be here. And I really want to discuss with you and Stephanie, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, so what do you think? World War III, on schedule, off schedule? Your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to happen. For one simple reason, there seems to be no major superpower that wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. China doesn't want it. Iran doesn't want it. The US doesn't want it. No other power seems to be wanting it. So I really don't see how this incident or these issues are going to escalate further. But there's a lot of noise about it because it gets clicks and impressions. So people are going to be constantly panicking, spreading panic.
Well, there's this in the United States, we have this term that we call for people who have this irrational hatred of Donald Trump. We call it Trump derangement syndrome. And I have a term that I use for people who have this strange irrational hatred for Israel and everything that it does. I call it Israel derangement syndrome. And it's every time Israel does something or anything, the world just explodes. And we know that there's rampant anti-Semitism on the left. They hate the Jews. They want the destruction of Israel. But there are also a lot of American right-wingers, and I don't know about right-wingers around the rest of the world, that also seem to find a special hatred for Israel as well. Have you noticed that there is this sort of special exception when it comes to Israel for people's views, the special hatred that is for this country? And what are your thoughts on Israel's right to defend itself, engaging in preemptive strikes in such a way, and your thoughts on the overall political environment regarding the country?
Well, I think every country has the right to defend itself. I don't think that there should be an exception for Israel in that respect. Now, as far as the conflict is concerned, the conflict in Gaza, but also the conflict between Israel and Iran, I simply don't know that much. And generally speaking, I abstain from saying much about it. But I do see a rampant anti-Semitism. Now, what seems to me to be particularly interesting is drawing the red line between criticism of the Israeli government and anti-Semitism. Because there is also the other tendency, the opposite tendency of saying that if you criticize the Israeli government in any respect, that's anti-Semitism. And that's what it is actually feeding, rampant anti-Semitism, because they are saying, well, the other side comes and says, well, look, they're constantly victimizing themselves, so they are going to, they constantly victimize themselves in order to justify using violence and force. So I really don't know about a lot of things, but I do think that there are a lot of unstable people on both sides who are literally trying to demonize others. And in some cases, it may have some value and some truth, but generally speaking, there is a lot of lack of proportion when judgment is concerned.
Stelios, one of our friends in the chat, her name's Jennifer Halbein. She says Israel wasn't defending itself. They attacked Iran first. How would you respond to that?
Again, I really don't know on this. I think that there's a very big question as to whether this kind of strike was a strike that the US was involved or whether the Israelis acted themselves. I simply don't know. And because I don't know, I don't want to rush and tell you my hunches, because I think that this is what, generally speaking, is generating all the very irresponsible talks about it. Now, what descriptively it seems to be the case, that is what a lot of the Israelis are saying, is that they don't want Iran to have nukes, because if Iran develops nuclear warheads, they are going to use them against Israel. But this isn't the only thing we should be focusing on, because, as I said before, almost no one wants Iran to have nuclear warheads. So yes, definitely, it's definitely the case that Israel doesn't want Iran to have nuclear warheads, but it's not the only force that doesn't. And yes, it's a preemptive strike. It looks like a preemptive strike.
I have a question. So are you in England?
Yes.
Okay. What is the anti-Semitism like in England? Is it as bad as here in the US? Is it worse?
I think that basically it's fundamentally the same.
Okay.
You very frequently see it on the left, because the left has a very specific structure in its operation. I think it goes even back to Marx, to the Communist Manifesto. Marx was saying that there are several stages that get you from the revolution to communism, and one of these stages has to do with allying with within quotation marks, revolutionary forces around the world, even if they don't agree nominally with their goals. Now, tragedy for the left. They did the same in Iran's Islamic Revolution in 1979. I don't think that it helped them. Actually, the Iranian Islamic Republic afterwards was very much against leftists who helped them. So it is sometimes backfiring. So in this case, it seems to be the case that leftists are focusing predominantly on saying that Palestinians are the revolutionary force. So they're going to constantly highlight the Palestinian struggle and be partial on it. So I'd say most of it comes from the left. And from the right, I think it just comes from more fringe elements who want to do revisionary history and say basically that Churchill was the villain of World War II and things like that.
Well,
but mostly it's in the left.
Well, that's a good segue for us to get into our next discussion, which is to talk about those fringe elements, because it seems as if that some of those fringe elements are not quite so fringe anymore. Populist movements have taken over here in the United States, and some European elections have been won. And many of those elements would like to rewrite history and paint people like Winston Churchill as the primary villain of World War II. My wife and I, Stephanie, we recently visited Winston Churchill's museum, which is actually coincidentally right here in mid-Missouri, where Churchill gave his Iron Curtain speech, was actually just about a few miles from where we live. What are your thoughts on these movements? I know you refer to them as fringe, but they're really not that fringe, it seems. In regards to online spaces, it seems like people like yourself and myself, people who are anti-authoritarian, who are against tyranny, are more of the fringe, and the mainstream people are those with the millions of followers, those with millions of listeners on their shows, are the ones who advocate the idea that maybe Hitler was just a little misunderstood, and if it wasn't for Franklin Delano Roosevelt cutting off oil to Japan, then those sweet, innocent, imperialist, theocratic Japanese would have never attacked the United States in Pearl Harbor. In other words, that it's the victims' fault that they were raped and attacked. What's your take on that? How would you respond to those accusations, Stelios?
Right. So I have two things to mention because I think they're very crucial in order to discern the situation we're in and we are talking about. So number one, I wouldn't say that the most influential Twitter accounts with millions of followers right now are necessarily authoritarians. It seems to me that a lot of these accounts are really close to the MAGA infosphere, and the MAGA infosphere isn't necessarily authoritarian. There may be some small elements within MAGA who are trying to steer MAGA towards a more, let's say, a much more authoritarian direction, but I don't think that they're the majority. So I wouldn't say that right now, in that respect, these people that I characterize as fringe, they have millions of followers and they have let's say, the public attention focused precisely on them. But you are correct, their popularity is rising. And I think that to a very large extent, this is a feature of the online spaces. It was about to happen. And if we allow free speech, and I'm pro-free speech, we do have like-minded people coming along. And especially in times of crisis, there are people who are rushed to give all sorts of narratives about events. A lot of it is emotional manipulation. So there are people who arise and are sophists within public discussion. And I think that's part of it. So I wouldn't say that still the majority of people are following that fringe direction as I have it in mind. Now, obviously, a lot of people in the MAGA infosphere maybe a bit less, let's say, liberal than we are, but I would still say that that doesn't make them authoritarians or totalitarians necessarily, or World War II history revisionists. And number two, I'd say that populism in Europe has lots of gradations. So I would hesitate to say that these fringe voices express every kind of populism within Europe. That said, it doesn't mean that there aren't problems with populism in Europe, but I would still say that it's a mistake to say that these voices speak for them. So, for instance, if we have forces that we regularly talk about as populist in Europe, like the AfD or Marine Le Pen's party in France, or other, let's say, a bit more right-wing forces within Europe, that they are described as populist. Yeah, they are in a sense populist, but again, still, I would say the other guys are taking it way too far. And there is a danger with branding everyone who just deviates from a position at the slightest as a demon, because that's what actually feeds their victimization. And that's what they say, hey, you're not agree 100% with Javier Milei. You're presenting me as a demon, so I need to defend myself.
Sorry, but they're all demons if they don't agree with Javier Milei. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Stelios Panagiotou. He is on the Lotus Eaters podcast, an ex-academic. He's joining us this morning here live from the UK. We're glad to have him here. We're going to go deeper down in the rabbit hole. And in speaking of disagreeing with you on certain things, Stelios, you wrote this excellent thread. It just came out this morning for us, where you wrote about classical liberalism as one of the most misrepresented traditions, and you say sometimes intentionally. But the first point that you make in your thread is that, and I'll go ahead and retweet it now so everybody can read it.
Thank you very much.
You write that classical liberalism has no limiting principles, which is an attack on classical liberalism that you say is false. But I've never heard anybody accuse classical liberals or libertarians as having no limiting principles because, and maybe you can help me understand this, I'm confused, because I feel as if everyone knows that libertarians or classical liberals like ourselves, that we do have limiting principles, and that it's us accusing the people who have more authoritarian tendencies, the people who don't agree with Javier Milei, as having no limiting principles. For instance, it's quite common for populists here in the United States to say power first, principles second, because if we don't have power, then what is the point of having principles? And the complaints that we hear from many on the right who don't share our worldview, Stelios, is their complaints is that when people like us have power, or when people who are more conservative versus populists have power, they don't use their power to try and achieve conservative goals or classical liberal goals. So it almost, at least maybe, and maybe I'm confused, it seems like the opposite is the case. We're accusing the more authoritarian wings of the right of not having limiting principles, and we are the ones who have limiting principles, meaning we won't, when we have power, we won't use it because it may conflict with constitutional views or the law.
The rule of law.
Help us to understand what you meant by that.
I think that there is a rising movement right now that tries to misrepresent liberalism, because they essentially want to say that liberty is the problem and we need massive restrictions of liberty in order to solve whatever problem we are facing. So this movement, I think, is called post-liberalism. Not all post-liberals are of the same variety. Some are soft, some are more hard, let's say, in their orientation. I'd say that a lot of the elements I was talking about within MAGA before are soft post-liberals. And a lot of the fringe elements, as I mentioned them, are hard anti-liberals. They're a bit more extreme. So I'd say right now there's a targeted campaign against liberalism and tries to portray it in, more often than not, in a very negative way. And it misrepresents it because fundamentally it's an issue of propaganda. Propaganda works with simple slogans. So if they say things like, well, conservatism doesn't conserve anything, so conservatism needs to go, or liberty just has no limiting principles, or liberalism is a social, or liberalism promised equality. Yeah, equality of what? There are a lot of people who are saying this, especially in the arising post-liberal tradition. Now, post-liberalism also has left and right orientations. We could say that essentially all the left is anti-liberal or post-liberal in a sense, but I'm talking here about right-wing liberalism. There is a targeted effort that is focused on quantity of messaging and drowning people with the misrepresentation in order to say, well, look at it, you just don't like woke people. Woke people call themselves liberals, so liberalism is the demon in a sense. And they try to do this, and because a lot of people are anti-woke, they try to capitalize upon the anti-woke movement and frame it as an anti-liberal movement, which is a disaster.
Well, I mean, I hear quite frequently, but you say here as number 5 on your thread, and again, for anyone who's listening and wants to read Stelios's excellent thread debunking some of the attacks on classical liberalism, you can find it over at my X page. I just reposted it. I'm at AP for Liberty, so go over there if you want to follow along with us. I'm on number 5, where you say that one of the attacks on classical liberals is communism is the logical conclusion of classical liberalism. Now, I don't want to fire too much inside the tent here, Stelios, but I do want to foster a conversation. But I do frequently hear from people within our movement that are on the right, that are not classical liberals, that I've been hearing frequently them making defenses of Karl Marx, that Karl Marx's attacks on classical liberalism were in fact true. In fact, I hear that from Carl Benjamin and many others who are making attacks on classical liberalism, not suggesting that classical liberalism leads to communism, but suggesting themselves that Karl Marx and his criticisms of classical liberalism were correct. How do you respond?
So first of all, really, really small parenthesis. Carl and I have been having this conversation for 2.5 years every week, multiple times, and we absolutely love it. Close parenthesis. So I think that this is, to be fair, a feature of political discourse, because every position is structured around some values. And there is a general tendency of saying that departure from these values is basically the same. It leads you to
the slippery slope fallacy, the slippery slope.
Yes. So this happens in a sense, this happens in every direction. And we could say that a lot of anarchists, for instance, are saying, well, if you have even a minarchist state, such as the state of libertarians and Robert Nozick, then you literally have a state, and it will eventually become communist tyranny. And the same happens with the conservatives, the OG conservatives, the old conservatives, the reactionaries, those who were against, let's say, the ideals of the French revolutions, which were very close to the US, to the American Revolution as well. Obviously, there were some differences. So these people are saying, essentially, we want a feudal structure, we want absolute power, we don't want the rule of law, and liberalism led us away from it, so it's just a slippery slope to communism. Because we don't have an enforced hierarchy, we're just led to classless society a la Marxism, the way Marxism professed it to be.
We're speaking this.
I'd say.
Go ahead.
No, I'd say that the defenses that some right-wingers are giving of Marx are not necessarily about Marx in terms of his political goal. They try to give a fair hearing to Marxist literature, and especially to analyzing social structures, which I'm all for one reason. If we want to really go and read anti-communists, for instance, 3 names that come to mind are Friedrich Hayek, Thomas Sowell, and Ludwig von Mises. All of them were very much aware of communist literature. So try to give a fair hearing to communist literature is not bad. In fact, it's good. But where I fault them is that the kind of benefit of the doubt and fair hearing they're giving to Marxist literature, they do not give to classical liberal literature.
I agree. I agree. They're much more fair to the communists, it seems, than they are to people like ourselves who are within the tent. There must be some kind of social phenomenon where, for whatever reason, you fight harder against the people who are closer to you than you do who are farther away. It's like people who fight with their families; they'll fight to the tooth and nail with their own family members than they will with people who are farther away. I see frequently libertarians in the United States, they will fight neoconservatives harder than they will fight actual devoted Antifa leftists and communists, despite having much more in common with neoconservatives than they do with leftist Antifa communists. But these are great discussions, Stelios, and everybody in the chat who is watching this morning is very curious to learn more about you, who you are, what your podcast is, what you're working on these days. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of a rundown of who you are and who you work with and where people can find out more about your work and listen to your own show.
Right. So first of all, thank you very much, and I really enjoyed our discussion. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm a Greek man in England. I work for the Lotus podcast. My background is on economics and business and philosophy. Done a PhD in philosophy, and I've also had some studies in economics and business and marketing. So I have both the practical and the theoretical perspective that I try to combine. And ever since I was teaching for about 6 years in academia, due to wokeness and several other issues, I had to leave. And I'm here working for the Lotus Eaters. That is a very big platform in the UK. We're one of the greatest alternative media platforms, and we are essentially talking about all things. Mostly, it's critical of wokeness and critical of the left, and as you said before, sometimes you have lots of disagreements with people you're close on some things about. That's why we also have some really brilliant disagreements here. We have lots of debates about liberalism and post-liberalism, and I'm very grateful to Carl Benjamin for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
People can definitely.
I've been watching Carl for years, and then it was thanks to Carl that I was introduced to you, and I've been watching you and the Lotus Eaters in the last few months. Whenever I really want to step it up big time with my philosophy game, Stelios, will you share with us what's the best place to go for people to follow you?
I think the best place to go is X. My Twitter handle, it's the account name is Stelios Panagiotou, and it's at Panagiotou90ST. That's a bit of a weird name. I don't know if they think
if they're struggling with it, all they have to do is just go to my account. I've just reposted you. So if they want to go to AP for Liberty, they'll see Stelios' account. They can just follow you directly over from there and watch your excellent podcast. Yes. Stelios, we hope you'll come back and join us again sometime very soon so we can continue. Because our audiences here in the United States really need to be enlightened about these discussions, especially with what's happening overseas in the UK, because there's so many terrifying things happening in that country. The clampdowns on free speech, the questions of immigration, and we'd love to have you come back and join us for more discourse on those topics soon.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Stelios. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye. Good morning.
There we go.
He's so smart.
Yeah, great
Talk about
guest.
Experts.
Yeah.
He is truly an expert in his field. I mean, he has a PhD in philosophy. He's got education and I think he said business, economics. I mean, all of the things.
And how about that set? Did you see the cavalry saber or the gold bars?
So
that was
beautiful.
stinking amazing.
In the chat, they were talking about that. They're like, "Who is this guy?"
I know. Hey, check him out. I'm a big fan of his, and I just reposted him again over on my X account. So if you guys want to give him a follow, you can find me, AP for Liberty, and then you guys go over there to X and follow him because I just reposted that thread we were talking about. So fascinating conversation, a fascinating character, and I look forward to hearing from him hopefully again really soon. But guess what?
Oh, absolutely.
It's time to party. Party. Steffi, we got Justin Petersen coming. Who's excited? Be excited.
He does have a master's degree. He's smart too.
He does. Justin has a master's degree. He's very smart. We're going to hear from Justin Petersen when we get back. I'm not going to play the bonus content again, guys, because I didn't realize it was 8 minutes long. Usually it's like 5 minutes. That's my fault.
Well, that's like good bonus content. They're getting a bang for their buck here.
It is, but I don't think they want to wait 10 minutes to see Justin. I think they want Justin right now. No, they don't want to wait 10 minutes to hear from JP. They want to hear from him right now. So we're going to go to a brief little commercial break. Don't be mad. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand.
I am a single mom of 4 who are ages 21, 17, 12, and 11. I would like to tell you my story on how SNAP benefit has helped me. Sorry.
Go ahead. You're doing good.
Yes. When I had my oldest daughter 21 years ago, I was working 3 jobs. One job alone, I had to pay child care. Another one to pay food, which wasn't enough. And one to pay the bills, and I still struggled a lot. Moving forward, I am now working a full-time job as a bus monitor, and I'm a driver who transports students to specialized schools in Kansas City. As an employee of the school district, I only get paid once a month. By the time I get my bills paid, I have nothing left to pay for food and other basic needs. If it wasn't for SNAP benefits, I wouldn't be able to feed my children nor myself. I work, pay my bills, and like every other mom, I want to be sure that I have enough food to put on the table.
Is there some law that bus ladies all have to be 400 pounds of greasy hair? Good morning. Rise and freedom. Stephanie Petersen, look at that face she's making.
I mean, I think SNAP benefits allow you to buy Twinkies, right?
That's you
can buy junk food with those.
Dude, how much junk food can you buy with freaking 350 pounds?
Well, she apparently bought a really expensive Life Water with her SNAP benefits.
Ooh,
I mean, like,
Steffi,
we
calling
buy
her
like
out.
store brand Walmart, water. Like, this woman's buying some nice stuff here.
When I was a kid, we just drank water from the tap, and we like to drink it from the hose. Good morning.
Yeah.
Rise and freedom. Justin Petersen is live from Boston, Mass. Joining us on the show. Good morning, Justin.
Greetings from the cradle of liberty.
Justin, glad to have you here, sir. SNAP benefits.
Thank you.
She was hungry. She could barely feed her kids. Maybe her kids were starving, but she looked like she was okay.
Did she eat her children? She looks like she ate her children.
Oh my goodness. That would be a great murder story. A woman who ate her children.
It's more like Jupiter. Didn't Jupiter in the Greek mythology eat his children?
So hard and loves her kids.
A single mom who works so hard and loves her kids and never stops.
She's the heart of the fighter. We were just saying yesterday that Hazel now with her little curly hair, she's starting to look like Reba McEntire these days.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Reba McEntire. We love Reba McEntire.
Good to see you, Justin. How you been?
Good. Very good. Summer's here, and the time is right for dancing in the streets.
I mean, I will give
Or
this
something.
woman, some sort of credit here. It is hard to pay your bills. We know that very well. It's like things are so expensive. We just went to the grocery store the other day and spent over $400 to feed us and Hazel. So we get it. It is a lot. So I don't think she's like completely lying here, but whatever.
But the
food
optics
she's
are really
buying-
bad.
What's that?
I said the optics are really bad. Like,
For what?
you're going to talk about someone who can't eat and you're going to show a person that looks like that. Those are really bad optics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really bad optics.
Justin, we're glad to have you. We haven't seen you here in a little while on the show. We're thankful that we get to join you for Freedom Family Friday. And we wonder if you have any thoughts on the situation with World War III. Any concerns?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
No.
No, Justin, no?
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's so, I don't even know. I don't want it. The thing is always like, I was telling my friends this week, if you go back during the 80s, there used to be a lot of like TV shows and like mini dramas that would be on television about nuclear holocaust, right? So like there was a film that was made in Lawrence, Kansas, where I went to graduate school. Okay, don't get any KU haters in the chat here. But it was filmed in Lawrence, Kansas. It was called The Day After, and it was with Jason Robards, and it was all about the nuclear attack on the United States, specifically in Kansas City, because the Richards-Gebaur Air Force Base was there, and it was a target, and so they were using the Richards-Gebaur Air Force Base in the story as a target for nuclear attack. So I guess this was on television, and it freaked people out. And even Ronald Reagan watched this at the White House, and even he was like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do this nuclear stuff. Maybe this isn't a good idea. Because it was so harrowing to see dramatized what life would look like under a nuclear attack. There was also another film that was made in England. I think, personally, I've seen a lot of horror movies. I'm a big horror movie junkie. I love horror movies. But in the truest sense of horror, the most horrifying film I have ever seen is the movie Threads. It was made in the UK, and it was about a nuclear attack in a small town in London, in England. And it's probably the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life, because it is true to what things would be like under a nuclear attack. And it is terrifying. It's one of those films you watch after it and you're like, I never want to see that movie again. I never, ever want to watch that ever again. And it makes you nauseous. Like, you just are nauseous, And the thing that I take away when I watch things like that, or I hear people talk about World War III, it's like, most of us don't give a shit. Most of us want to just go through our lives and raise our kids, go, have a quiet life, have a job, make a contribution to our society. And yet we're under the purview of these enormous global governments who, at the behest of, some megalomaniac, can push a button and we can all die. And that just really makes me angry, because I'm like, well, who gets to say that you son of a bitch, that you have any control over the rest of us who just want to live our lives and raise our kids and grow old with our wives and husbands? That shit just pisses me off so bad. So that's how I feel about World War III.
Yeah, it didn't used to be that. No, it's true. It didn't used to be that whenever there was a war, that the civilians necessarily had to be involved in it.
No,
but ever since the rise of total war and the ability for long-range bombers to attack any city anywhere at any time, all of us now are under the gun. Like in the Napoleonic Wars, for example, the worst that the civilians had to worry about was that there might be a raid, that there might be an army that would come in and break their stuff and take their food, requisition some supplies from them. But you didn't have to worry about getting shot, or you didn't have to get worried about being bombed with cannon fire. It was a rare thing to happen. But now, because of the way technology works, we all have to be afraid of some psychopath. Right. That's why, speaking of movies, I really enjoy the How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove, yeah.
Is a great film during the Cold War. And the guy who played Patton is like one of the lead characters in that movie.
All these movies sound great, honestly. I used to have recurring dreams about a nuclear bomb, so I totally get the whole fear behind it.
It's black and white, Stephanie, so
okay.
I don't know if you'll actually like it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big black and white fan. Toxic Avenger is the most realistic representation of the effects of toxic waste.
Oh.
That's literally one of my favorite movies. Like, if I had to put a top 20 list together, Toxic Avenger is.
I remember you
traumatizing
me as a kid and showing me that movie, but then I was like,
so good.
But then I think I had my sexual awakening because there was that moment where the blind chick is in his little toxic swamp with him, and she like accidentally grabs his junk, and he's like,
I love those trauma movies. I love those kind of movies.
Stephanie
I love
loved
those
that
trauma
movie too,
movies.
actually. Toxic Avenger. It was the one where like the nerd gets turned into a toxic freak, and then he had to go live out in the swamp. And he was getting bullied.
Oh my God, there was so much nudity in that movie.
Yeah,
in the locker room.
The subtitle is "The First Superhero from New Jersey." It's so good. And if you've been to New Jersey, you realize that's kind of an accomplishment. So,
has the audio improved for Stephanie and I? We've been struggling a little bit this morning.
Really?
Drop us some comments down in the chat. It's because it's a new
I was
scene.
thinking about Austin. I was thinking about the Civil War. You know, when it first started, people thought it was just a lark. You know, and they would take picnic baskets and they would go and watch the Civil War actually happen, like as spectators, you know, to just watch the thing happen. And now it's like, oh no, it can come into your backyard. I mean, Sherman obviously just razed through the South when he, sieged of Atlanta, and I don't know if those were war crimes. I think like they kind of were. What he did, some of what Sherman did was kind of, you could classify that as war crimes, what he did to citizens. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's
hard to say. It's better to win and be thought a war criminal than to be dead and thought a peaceful, innocent. To be thought an innocent victim.
It's like Eric Hoffer in his book, which I recommend everyone read Eric Hoffer's book. It's called The True Believer. It was written in 1955. It's an excellent book. It tells you about how mass movements get started, and he makes a really good argument that says most of what happens in the world is these extremist factions that are fighting over the heads of all the rest of us. Like all the rest of us are just here like wanting to live, and these, demagogues are, fighting over the heads of all of us. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much right. That's right. And it's unfortunate because these demagogues can have the power to kill us all. That's what's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Blood alone moves the wheels of history.
I don't trust Iran. I mean, sure, we can say, oh, don't make a nuclear bomb, but they can still do it. If there's a will, there's a way. Right. So I just don't trust them, and I think they're capable of anything.
Well,
really.
I think that's why Israel attacked them, because they don't trust them either. And it's kind of like if you have a country that says that they are committed to your destruction, and they say things like, "We will wipe you from the map," and they're actively seeking to gather a weapon that they could use to do it. Would you let them have it? It's kind of like, think about it in a person-to-person situation. If you're in a fight with somebody and you've blooded each other up pretty good, and then the other person says, "I'm going to kill you now," and they're reaching for a sword, do you wait until they pick up the sword before you do something about it, or do you stop it right there? Do you end it right there? I mean, it just doesn't. I mean, people talk about preemptive strikes, and I come from a libertarian world where nothing makes sense in regards to foreign policy. It's, maybe Hitler had a few good points, and if only FDR wasn't such a jerk, then maybe the Japanese would have never attacked us. And remember the USS Liberty, and and anything Israel does is a war crime, and nothing makes any goddamn sense when it comes to foreign policy. Every dictator is a hero, and every hero from Western civilization is a dictator and a tyrant. So I'm from upside down Oompa Loompa land when it comes to foreign policy. But I just don't understand how do you have a national defense that's coherent, that makes sense without a preemptive strike? Noting that if you let your enemy strike first, then you're going to lose. One of the things that I've learned from 20 years of martial arts is usually the first person to land a blow is the one who wins. It's not always the case. Not always. And it's not always the case in the history of warfare. There are always exceptions. But one of the things that you notice is the first person to land a blow typically gets the knockout in the end. So I don't know how to solve these problems. Again, I'm like you. I'd rather just hang out here in my country farm with the dogs playing in the meadow with the deer in the backyard and our little garden and all that stuff. But the fact is that because it affects us all, we probably all need to have something of an opinion on it or weigh in on it, especially since we live in a Republican
Oh yeah, and the
democracy.
opinion can be that it's horse shit.
Yeah.
And the opinion can be that it's horse shit. That's a valid opinion.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
I don't want to make the Middle East more mad. I feel like they're just getting more and more angry. And what is that going to do? That's going to make them hate us even more.
Would you rather have a Middle East where all of the countries are governed like Israel, or would you rather have a Middle East where all of the countries are governed by Hamas?
Well, that's an easy question to answer.
What's that?
I said that's an easy question to answer.
It's an easy question to answer, but I mean, for some reason, people seem to act as if Israel is the primary aggressor in the United States. I mean, it'd be like if the United States was surrounded by hostile nations, like, if you count Canada, but you have to understand the situation that they're in. I mean, they're a tiny country that is surrounded by countries committed to their destruction. How do you expect them to act?
Hostile. Well,
yeah.
I mean, we've gone after countries before in our history to protect democracy.
Yeah.
Didn't Truman do that?
Yeah. The Korean War. And they were successful.
Because we were so terrified of communism that we had to make a change.
But it was a success. The Korean War is probably one of America's greatest success stories. People are like, we lost the Korean War. I don't think we really did, actually. I think that the United States won the Korean War. When we went to the U.S. Marine Corps Museum, Stephanie, they showed us how General MacArthur landed at the Incheon Flats. That the war was almost lost until MacArthur came around to.
Oh, weren't you showing me on the map?
Yeah,
how it all worked.
How MacArthur because the Americans and the South Koreans were being pushed off the peninsula, and so MacArthur in a last ditch move came around the peninsula and landed on the Incheon Salt Flat, the flats. And then brought in and created the DMZ that we know as it is right now. Yep. And if you want an example of capitalist versus socialist economies, look no further than the experiment of South Korea versus North Korea. And there you can, I mean, South Koreans are a full 3 inches taller on average than North Koreans because of the United States winning the Korean War and defending South Korea and creating that nation. So. Incheon, tremendous success, says Luke Sacker in the chat. Yes, absolutely.
There's no good answer here, but doesn't Iran have allies that might have bombs that could hurt us?
Yeah, but even their allies, quote unquote, don't like them. Right? It's like China is technically allied with North Korea, but they don't like North Korea because North Korea is a burden to them. They have to they have to constantly bail North Korea out. They have to constantly be sending in aid, and they have to constantly be trying to prevent them from starting World War III. So Iran has allies with Russia and with China, but they don't like Iran.
Russia certainly doesn't like us.
Yeah, but they don't. But I mean, they don't like Iran either. So I mean, even their allies. I mean, Russia doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons.
Right.
They don't. So it's just a mess. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Petersen. This is my family, and damn, they're good looking. Look at my brother, Justin Petersen, over there. Look at my wife, Stephanie.
Hello.
That's why my daughter's so beautiful. I actually said the other day, Justin, when I was looking at Hazel, that I could see your face in her face a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
He did say that.
Yeah, I was looking at her and I was like, oh my gosh, she looks like Justin when he was a baby. Yeah,
Really?
That Petersen face is in there. She's got a very strong Petersen face. She's got Stephanie's hair, but she's got a Petersen face. And she kind of like had that look in her face that I was like, oh my God, that is Justin. That is a Justin face right there.
Yeah, she has very big like facial bones. Her structure is
Yes.
more large.
Yep.
Compared to me, I have very like small structure.
Justin, what do you think about the LA riots?
Oh, I think they're fun and fabulous.
Thank God they
Keep
started
fighting.
after you left.
Did
Yeah,
you see
no
the guy?
shit.
Did you
When you
see
were
the guy
there.
in Florida? Was it the sheriff in Florida who was saying, "If you mess with our officers, we're going to kill you graveyard dead." Did you see that guy? that was intense.
When the looting starts, the shooting starts. Justin, how do you think that people should respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's controlled demolition as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's, you sow the, what is it? Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. Is that what it is, or whatever it is? I can't remember that quote. Yeah, it's a mess. I was reading that they arrested, I want to say 213 people or something. And of those 213 people that were arrested, I think there was 112 that were criminals that had criminal record. So almost half the people that they arrested already had a pre-existing criminal record. And this is just what LA does, I guess, right? I mean, this just seems to be the dystopian nightmare that they all want to live in. And Gavin Newsom seems to be useless. Karen Bass, is it Karen Bass? Is that the name of the mayor?
The mayor,
of Los
Karen
Angeles?
Bass.
Oh my gosh, she's out there doing performance art, like cleaning the graffiti off the walls while there's like an air blaster, water blaster. Like
What? Is there a video of that?
Somewhere, I'm sure. I'll see if I can find it.
Crazy.
Just ridiculous. And I just, think about being a business. I was like, of course it's great for the memes because I'm always like, bring out the rooftop Koreans.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe things will start to settle down, Justin, now that Trump has made the following pronouncement. Take a listen.
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. And you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too. Hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
I was told we were going to have mass deportations, Justin. We were going to deport them all. But,
Build the wall.
Build the wall.
Build
But
the wall.
no longer. Your reaction, Justin.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting that we have a whole strata of economic, there's a whole economic thing in our country that's reliant on something illegal. That's crazy to me. Like that there's a portion of economic growth that's dependent upon illegality, the breaking of the law, that we have to have that in our country. I'm like, that's shocking. And that nothing has been done about it. And that there has been no conversation and we want to keep bringing people in. And it's just shocking to me. And it's really disconcerting that there's, a whole economic sector which is predicated upon building upon illegal breaking of the law. I don't know, I'm not using my words very well this morning. But it's just shocking to me. But it's true though, because it's like our dad. Dad has a landscaping business, and he sometimes I don't know, and I do not know the immigration status of his workers. I don't know if there's a check. I don't know that dad does.
Well,
that.
I think it was back in the day that they did, but then they eventually naturalized and became American citizens. Some of them who were here, but I mean, back in like the 80s. Like nobody cared, nobody checked, but now they're talking about like going after the employers. So the enforcement is much more than it used to be. But I mean, is it the problem of the economics or is it the problem of the law? Because I mean, if you're coming here to work on a farm and act as migrant labor, that seems to me to be a perfectly legitimate use of someone's labor. But then if you're coming in here to commit crime or to, to distribute fentanyl to 5-year-olds, then perhaps the proper and necessary role of government is to get the gang members out, not to go chasing down people who are picking blueberries.
Right. Well, and if you have been picking blueberries for 20 years, as Trump was saying, what in the world is going on in 20 years that you can't go and apply for citizenship? Like, what's preventing you from just... I have a friend of mine who she's from Latvia, and she just became a naturalized citizen. So it's like, what's preventing you from just saying, you know what, I'm going to just become a citizen? Is it taxes? I don't know. It's like they don't want to pay taxes? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the process. Is it expensive? Is it hard to get through the process? I know nothing about it.
It used to be they have visas are sponsored for students that come to the United States. They can get sponsors. I think that's how that works.
But do people want to sponsor poor immigrants?
Well, they sure want to get their labor.
Right.
Yeah,
they sure want to exploit them for their labor.
Afford to sponsor.
No, I mean, I think they do. I think they do want to sponsor these immigrants. I mean, Justin, you were never going to get out of we're not going to catch you dead working out in the field picking blueberries, right? Somebody like you, someone like me, we are, most young Americans, we don't go to get college degrees so that we can go out there and work in the field stripping trees all day. We wanted to go out there and get white collar jobs or have more comfortable jobs. So I mean, people like some of these like MAGA people, they will attack libertarians or conservatives who say, oh, well, Americans don't want to do those jobs. But literally, I don't know a single American who wants to do those jobs, Justin. And I've got friends who are blue collar. I've got friends who are white collar. I've got friends who are elites. I've never met an American citizen who said to themselves that those day laboring jobs on farms are the kind of jobs that they want to do. Most Americans don't want those jobs. So who's going to do them?
Right. Well, I feel like the left kind of always gives their hand when they talk about, well, who'll do the jobs? Because it's basically saying that you're okay with a slave class, that you're literally okay with like slaves. It's like we need our slaves. We got to have our slaves, and I'm always like, so what you're saying is you want the exploitation of the laborers, because the left is always talking about their whole thing about Marxism is all predicated upon Marxism is the idea that it's exploitation, right? That capitalism is an exploitation of workers. And I mean, so you've got people there that are like, yeah, they are going to be exploited, but you're okay with it. And it's like, but I thought you weren't okay with people being exploited for labor. You can't ask me to get congruence in a leftist's opinions because you can't get it because it's not possible.
The people on the left probably just want to raise the minimum wage of the laborers. They want to pay them like $15 an hour to pick blueberries. That's probably where they're coming from.
Here's the view of the average leftist. Take a listen to this.
These people are having their children taken and they're playing. What about my kids? I need to get a job.
Look at this.
That's what happens to my kids. I can't help it. But you can if you could just move off the way.
You're not going to.
How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do you as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I think it's gonna happen. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying
Oh
to
no, not work. Now hold on. I'm going to pause this for just a moment. Stephanie, I want you to see. Okay, so how do you feel about stopping black people from going to work? Now here he is. Oh no, not work. Now look at this woman's face right there, Stephanie. Yeah, that's her face right there. Yeah.
Oh, you do not want to mess with a black woman providing for her children.
Trying to get to work. Imagine
a single mom who works 2 jobs. Like that's
who
her
loves
right
the kids
there.
and works real
Absolutely.
hard. Heart of a fighter. Justin, I'm sure you probably saw this clip. Your take?
Oh, I just thought Malcolm X was right. Malcolm X was right. The white liberal is no friend to the black person at all. Here are two. I think that guy's a trust fund baby too.
He's got to be. How's he got? Otherwise, how he got time to stand out in the street and drink beer in the middle of the day?
Black lives matter unless you have to go and get a job so your black life can matter.
Oof.
Right?
Here's how Mexicans feel about the whole situation overall.
Like an older Mexican man won't let his daughter date a black man, but she could date a white man. Because of the skin color.
It's almost sad because they say para mejorar la raza. That's what they be saying.
To better the race.
Yeah.
Fucked up, bro. They're fucked up, bro. So when my grandma moved to the city and my grandpa moved to the city and they met, my grandma automatically just seemed better because she was with this guy from Michoacan that was light skinned and white with green eyes. And she looked like Felipe, dark, short, and that she thought she was better, fool. Like, fool, I swear to God, for my grandma just passed, but she loved my nephew more than she loved my niece. Like,
oh my God, dude, no!
I hope the niece and nephew aren't listening to that. Oh boy.
So this Hispanic man, he's saying that the Mexicans, they don't want to mate with blacks because they think it's impure, but they want to marry and date with the whites because it's good for their race. It's good for them.
We noticed that even among the blacks, a lot of blacks here in Missouri, they marry white people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, light skin has always been desirable.
Yeah, it always has been. I mean, in India, they're dyeing their skin, they're bleaching their skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and even black people have this kind of caste
Colorism.
system where they have like light skinned blacks and dark skinned blacks.
Yeah, you do not want to be like a dark African woman.
No.
Yeah, that is not seen
It's
as
called
beautiful.
colorism is the name of it. It's called colorism.
Colorism. Tell us more. I've never heard of this.
No, that's the idea. It's just the idea of prejudice against people of your own race because of the color of the skin, it being lighter or darker.
No, the funny thing is, as a redhead with very fair skin, I'm jealous of people who are tan. So in the white person world, I want to be a little bit darker skinned as a white person. Because I think being very pale
tan
and ghostly, I don't think that's attractive as a white person. So it's kind of twisted, isn't it?
Would love to hear our audience's thoughts on that and more. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. And you can use that text line to text us anytime, night or day. It doesn't have to be during the live show. It can be anytime. If you have a question about your product, for example, at forlibertyshop.com, you're like, hey, AP, Steffi, where is our shirt? Where's our bag? Then you can just send us a text and we'll let you know at forlibertyshop.com when you make purchases. If you have questions about your orders, that phone number that you see on the screen, 573-319-1586 is the text line. And again, you can text us anytime, night or day. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. Click the like button. And if today is the first time that you've ever watched the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. So make sure that you click the follow button over there in the chat. If you click the follow button, then you'll get a notification whenever we go live, which is 5 days a week, Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show's schedule. And if you click the follow button and you're watching us over on Rumble, you'll get a notification on your phone when we go live, which is, again, Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Become a regular guest of the Wake Up America show, and we'd love to have you join us.
Were you looking for the video you sent me earlier?
Yeah, I was, but we'll
was
get
in
it.
my chat.
Yeah, we'll get it.
I
Send it
wanted
back
to talk
me if
about
you
the
don't mind.
Snap
Go ahead,
Mom.
Justin.
I want to talk about Snap Mom.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, so like I watched that video, right? And again, it was funny when people were watching it. I said, you know what? This is just another example of government failure. That woman is fat because of the government. It's going to be weird, like what? But she is fat because of the government. Because if she's getting SNAP benefits, those SNAP foods are usually subsidized by the government. Now, guess what's cheap to make? Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are cheap to make, and they are not, and they're also cheap to buy. So the woman clearly has had too much consumption of carbohydrate, because it's, I said because it's cheap. But the thing is too, she probably doesn't know how to buy nutritious food. Are they giving her any advice about, here's how you should, like I know you should always shop the perimeter of the grocery store, right? When you go around this, that's where all the healthy food is. The stuff that's in the aisles in the middle of the store is not really nutritionally very healthy for you.
Why is that?
I think it's all part of design. I think it's probably all part of the design of the store. But yeah, I mean, because like cereal's not really that great for you. grains, not really that great for you. I mean, I was like, oh, they're heart healthy. I'm
Remember
like,
growing
really.
up, they told us that we should eat like 8 servings of bread a day, but if you eat eggs, you'll die.
And that was a government food pyramid.
Yeah.
When someone gets SNAP benefits, they should have some sort of training from the government, maybe like a Zoom meeting or something, where it literally takes them around the grocery store, shows them what their SNAP can pay for, and it tells them, what's healthy, what's not so healthy. I think there needs to be an education component with it,
totally.
Which might be more expensive.
It probably
upfront.
wouldn't. Yeah, if that made sense for them financially, they would do it. It's probably for them better not to because
absolutely.
Yeah, it would probably result in depressed sales and depressed people, and they wouldn't buy there as often.
The
other thing too is that when
angry.
you can also buy more of it. So it's like you can buy like 12 boxes of macaroni and cheese for like what, $8 or something. So it's like just per volume, like a person can go to a store and by volume buy tons of cheap food that has no nutritional value in it whatsoever. But because she's got this family of 4 or whatever it is, she's working with, like that's a lot of volume of food to bring home. But none of that food is nutritionally valuable. It will make you fat. The food will make you fat that you're eating.
So I feel like SNAP benefits should only be good for foods that are technically nutritious for you, but then it's like, where do you draw the line? Because there's so many foods that can do harm to you as well.
Isn't that what Kennedy's trying to do though? Because he's trying to limit the SNAP benefits. Is that right? Am I under that? Am I under the right impression?
Limit the foods that can be bought under SNAP? Is that what you're saying?
Or limit, I think so, limit the SNAP benefits and how they work.
I mean, RFK Jr. was trying to get the soda removed from SNAP benefits. So you weren't able to buy soda with it, which I think...
How can anybody fight that soda needs to be a SNAP benefit? Like, tell me a good argument for that.
Dadbod says, 30 years ago, my ex-wife and I were on WIC for about a month after our child. We could only get certain things that were only available at the store connected right next door to the WIC office. Interesting. I wonder what I wonder what that situation was like compared to what it is now. I mean, obviously, we don't have SNAP benefits, so I've never experienced that.
We've got about food pantries of churches. Like, that's another resource as well. I mean, obviously we've talked about this, but like, as churches diminish in their volume, stuff like charitable work like this goes away. And so then more and more of us have to, shoulder the burden of these public programs because the charitable organizations like churches are closing up. So it's like there is a net negative of losing churches and that kind of stuff, because you have churches that have food pantries.
And from what I hear, when people do go to these churches, they don't really get very good food. There's slim pickings. They get like cans of beans, things that you really can't make meals out of. At least that's what I've heard from people who have gone to those pantries.
It's funny because I worked I've worked at food pantry, and I was really surprised by the amount of food. Now I do live in a more populated area. Okay, so I don't know if that's different in rural America. But where I was at, it was it was like a store. It was like, this is a grocery store.
Wow.
And there was all kinds of foods available for people. And we would literally just box up, like everybody got a set box of stuff.
Nice.
So there was like a process to what was put into the bags. But it wasn't like, oh my, I didn't come away from the experience going, oh my God, these people are eating crap food. Like it was, it seemed to be nutritionally rather balanced in terms of carbohydrates and fats and proteins.
A little bit of breaking news this morning, which may or may not have something to do with the AP for DC Liberty Tour that we took earlier this summer with our fans. The Smithsonian will conduct a wide content review requested by Trump. President Trump and J.D. Vance want to eliminate improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology from Smithsonian museums.
No,
it's because of you.
Oh my God.
This is the flag. This is the Stephanie, for the audience members who might not know, because I see we've got a bunch of newbies over there in the chat.
Yeah.
Tell them what happened to us at the Smithsonian earlier this year.
So we were at the Smithsonian with our DC Liberty Tour group, and we were in the First Lady dresses area. And there was a guard there standing at a podium, and she told you to roll up your flag.
And to put it away. Because it could be offensive to some people. And I remember muttering, not directly to her, but just, in the air. I was just like, you can't have an American flag at an American history museum.
And then after that, then, you know, you made a complaint to the Smithsonian, and then it got carried over to the White House Smithsonian team.
Yeah, the White House reached out to me and was like, tell us about what happened. We want to find out. And now we're finding out this morning. I'm seeing the Wall Street Journal. The Smithsonian is conducting a thorough review of all of its content in its 21 museums and zoo to eliminate political influence and bias. Yes.
Wow. You know, you deserve some sort of recognition for that. I think once they carry out this whole research thing, they need to call you.
It says that the decision, that an executive order has been issued to eliminate improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology and to remove narratives that portray American and Western values as inherently harmful and oppressive.
Nice.
It's all over the place, though, too. When you go to the museum and if you actually read the placards that they have on there, it is quite frequently leftist or woke ideology.
That's right.
That you
they
will
do the
find.
same thing here at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. So now when you go see art from previous centuries, you have to be preached at about how, you know, it's colonialist or it's based on, you know, someone else's oppression, which is completely out of the leftist playbook. And I just want to get arrested because I get so angry. I get so angry. I'm just like, arrest me because I'm fucking pissed.
Yes. So there you are, listeners. If the de-wokification of the Smithsonian Museum occurs, it might be just because your boy AP got his civil liberties crushed and fought back. I fought the law, and the law won. Except, looks like we're going to win.
You just never get credit for anything.
No,
you know,
I
like you're
know.
always the first person to suggest certain ideas, and then other people get the credit for it.
I
You're
know.
just like,
I know. I'm that kid in class who says something quietly, and then somebody else says it louder, and then they get all the credit. It happens all the time. Like people on social media, like I'll have a tweet, and then some like huge account will like repost my tweet word for word, and then everybody will be like, "Oh, you're so genius! You're so brilliant!" I'm like, "You motherfucker!" That I literally said that like a week ago.
they've been doing that to our unwatermarked memes too.
Yeah,
We have
I
to
know.
watermark
We've got to
like
watermark
crazy
all
now.
of our memes now because we've been putting out so many
Yes.
fire memes that they've been stealing them.
I have to circle back to the grocery store.
What's that?
I have to circle back to the grocery store because
Okay, real quick, I just want to say thank you. I just got to say thank you to Kermode. He dropped $20 in the tip jar. Says, "Good job. Let's use this money to buy a fancy goat." Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
please.
No, Clementine here in the chat was saying that fresh foods are on the perimeter of grocery stores because it has to do with piping of water and refrigeration units. And so that's why all the good food is around the outside.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's
utilitarian.
interesting. Wow, man. Our chat is like 110 plus IQ for sure. Glad to have all of our friends here on the Wake Up America show. We don't normally have such a big audience on Fridays, so it's great to see everybody. 151 joining us live.
Oh,
Can we get more likes? I don't know how many people have liked the show so far.
It's World War III. They want to talk about World
I know
War
they
III.
want to talk about World War III. Well, click like anyway, and to help support the show, it's totally free. Click the like button on the chat on the show, and we'd be glad to have your support. Justin, one last topic before we go. Since Stephanie is a therapist, and Justin, you're a big fan of therapy, did you see the story that I sent to you this morning from this young woman?
Okay, so if anybody want to know like the kind of stuff that I like to watch, Leslie Boyce, she's Benjamin Boyce's wife. He does conversations on his YouTube channel. His wife Leslie does a channel called The Radical Center, and they had this Naomi Epps on this a couple days ago, and I watched this interview with her and a panel of other therapists about the situation, and I just was like, "What in the world is going on?" It's crazy pants.
I'm going to play this clip real quick from this woman. She just was kicked out of her therapy training program because of her column that she wrote in the Wall Street Journal. Here's what she had to say. Listen.
Moments ago, I was fired from my therapy internship for blowing the whistle in the Wall Street Journal on ideological conformity in therapy training. This comes with the regret of my boss, but he was left no choice due to the climate we are now in. This will harm clients. I am not doing this for personal gain. I am doing this because if we don't have a set of therapists with diverse worldviews and with tolerance for people with diverse worldviews, we will alienate people who need psychological care, and we will cause more harm than good. Please help me by sharing this. I don't know what's next for me. It could get worse. I've been in contact with people who have large platforms, which I am grateful for, and I will talk to anybody, left, right, or center. This is not a partisan issue. This needs to be brought to the public attention. It is a crisis in therapy.
I'm reaching out to her. Naomi Epps Best is her name.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That'd
I'll
be neat if she
try and
could
get her
on.
on next week. She says, to become a therapist, I'm expected to watch bondage videos and submit a sexual autobiography. Stephanie, did you have to submit a sexual autobiography to become a therapist? If so, where can I read it?
No, and I wonder if she was in social work school, counseling school, psychology. I mean, I don't know exactly what her degree
She
is.
was getting a graduate degree in marriage and family therapy. That was her interest.
At a Jesuit institution?
At a Jesuit?
A Catholic institution?
Oh, because I was going to say she should
Catholic
go to a
school.
Catholic. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I only took one couples therapy class in college that I remember, and I didn't have to watch any videos. I didn't have to share anything sexual about myself. We did do psychosocial assessments, but that just assesses your family background, your mental health history. It doesn't ask anything sexual about you per se. So I didn't experience any of this, but I went to school in 2010. That's when I graduated. And then 2011, I got my master's. So I went to school way long time ago. And so wokeism was just starting to show its head at that time.
So let me set this up. Give me 1 minute, guys, so that our listeners know what we're talking about here. We're talking about a woman who was kicked out of her internship at her program at a Jesuit institution, a Catholic institution, where she was seeking to become a therapist. She says that the first time she enrolled in this course, students were assigned to read sadomasochistic erotica and a book called The Guide to Getting It On, featuring sexually explicit illustrations. We were told to write an 8 to 10 page comprehensive sexual autobiography, which could include early sexual memories, masturbation, current experiences, and future goals with an action plan, all uploaded to a third-party platform for grading. The syllabus allowed that students are not required to disclose anything that causes extreme discomfort. So on ethical and religious grounds, she requested an alternative assignment, but the department chair denied her request. When she tried to get the same out that Muslim students got on it, they said absolutely not. She asked to drop the course completely. She was told no. There was no one-time exception granted to her. She says that she is being punished for her views and for not displaying her sexual history to her professors. This is terrifying stuff.
Not only that, but there was stuff in her work that she was in the interview I watched with her. She was referencing information too on bestiality and like what kind of lubrication you should use with specific kinds of animals to, because they have certain kinds of stomachs. So, to be able to be sexually gratified with an animal. I mean, we're talking about beyond just like, oh, I like to, wear whips and chains. Well, this is the pits of hell. I mean, this is like really the portal of hell to look into what this is stuff that they've been taught. And I can't help but think it's not the sexual gratification of the teacher, that the teacher's not getting some kind of sexual gratification from it.
Oh,
But the thing about therapy is that, therapy has become about education. In other words, therapy now is about instilling critical theory ideas in your patients. It has nothing to do with learning about what the patient's problem is. It's about teaching your patient how to live out a critically conscious life. So therapy has become about education, and education has become about therapy. So now we can't teach people things that really they need to learn. We need to sit and talk about their feelings and braid their hair. It's like the inverse world that we're living in, and the training of therapy that went on 40 years ago or even 20 years ago has no bearing in what it's become today. It's gone off the rails. I mean, the stuff that she talks about is disgusting. I just am like, this is just rank debauched perversion.
I will say, in doing therapy with people, they do talk about a lot of sexual things because in relationships, there's sexual problems that occur. So I think it's good to at least have a baseline knowledge of sexual problems and dysfunctions in relationships. But I don't think you should have to go so far as to reveal your own sexual history. No. I think that definitely is, that's not necessary.
No, and it's also like we also live in this world where with sexual ethics, where no one talks about sexual ethics. It's like as long as you get consent with someone, it's like, well, everything's fine and clear. But we, as someone who really cares about mental health, we don't talk about the fact that not all sex acts are moral or ethical in the sense of what they do to your psyche. Like, okay, yes, you might have gotten consent from that person to beat the living shit out of you, but like, what is that going to do to you long term? And don't most kinks come out of some kind of trauma anyway? Like, haven't they found that like a lot of people who have more very far-flung sexual paraphilias, doesn't that come from some kind of childhood trauma?
Yeah, I do see a connection. Like, I've definitely spoken to someone before who wore diapers and they wanted to be a baby and that was their thing. And we did connect that to past childhood issues.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't not be Donna Peterson's son, man. At the end of the day, I just cannot be Donna Peterson's son. I've got too much Donna Petersen in me.
Yeah, it's really
like,
weird.
That's nasty.
Whatever hurt you as a kid can almost become like something that you enjoy as an adult. It's very twisted, but your brain works
just
in
something
odd
like
ways.
spanking. Like there is a titillation with spanking, like from kids getting spanked, and so like adults are like they want to capture the titillation of that feeling when they were spanked as kids. It's like, oh, spank me.
Oh God.
You know?
Okay,
It's like,
that's all right. It's the outro music. It's the outro music. It's the outro music. It's the end of the show.
See, Stephanie and I are not flummoxed. We could sit about and talk about this stuff forever. We're just curious and we're like into
Because
it.
we watch BDSM videos and we educate ourselves on sexual issues and we talk about how we feel about it.
As the patriarch in waiting for this family, I'm going to go ahead and call a wrap on this. Justin Petersen, tell us where people can find out more about what you do online.
Well, my OnlyFans. I have my Substack. It's justinpetersen.substack.com. I talk about voice world and singing and being a good singer and all that kind of jazz. And if you have any high schoolers that you know of that are wanting to be interested in musical theater and want to major in college musical theater, I'm your guy. So you can find me there at Justin or jpetersen at mycollegeaudition.com. You can email me.
JP.
Yay!
We love you, brother. We're so grateful to have you here with us on Fridays for the Wake Up America show's Freedom Family Friday, bro. We love you so much.
Woo! Love you too.
Have a good one. We'll see you again real soon, hopefully.
Talk to you later.
Justin's spanking channel, they said over there in the chat. Oh, God, no.
It's true. You know, it's like, how can you help people with certain issues if you don't really know about them?
Mhm.
Like, I do have people that talk about, like, you know, kink kinds of stuff, and, like, I'm not familiar
Well, you
with a
don't
lot
need to
of it.
write an autobiography of your own
No.
sexual history in order to be able to
Right.
talk to people about their sex problems in therapy, Stephanie.
Exactly. But as a therapist, you do need to be aware of like your hang-ups in therapy, like the things that are going to trigger you when a client comes to you. So I think that is important. It's just, therapy is just so personal and so deep, and like, it is not for the weak. I'll tell you that. You got to really know yourself and not be very messed up in the head to be a therapist.
I'm done talking with my family about sex in public on a live stream. Guys, thank you so much for watching the Wake Up America show. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. Stephanie, anything else you want to say before we let you go today?
Freedom Arcade.
Oh, that's tonight. Yeah.
8 p.m. for you?
8 p.m. Central tonight, the
Hazel
Freedom Arcade.
will probably still be trying to get to bed, but I'll get here as quickly as I
She'll
can.
join us as quickly as she can. So make sure you guys join us here tonight. Same channel here at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. Join us at 8 p.m. Central Time. We play some video games on our own, and then we play party games with everybody in the chat. So if you're up tonight between 8 and 10 p.m. Central Time and you feel like you want to hang out with friends, join us right here. Just an FYI, it is premium, exclusive, members-only content. So if you join us tonight and you're like, you see the paywall, that's like Rumble's premium content paywall. So just FYI, if you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So it is like exclusive members-only content, but it'll be tonight from 8 to 10 p.m. We'll be playing some games and having some fun and goofing around, and I might be drinking a little bit. So, Stephanie?
I won't be drinking.
No.
Be free.
Oh, and don't forget, I guess today's Friday, so we should plug the premiere, says Andy Opperman. Guess
Oh,
what?
the premiere of Killing Mary Sue.
Killing Mary Sue, my movie's out.
Look for it on Amazon Prime. I'm actually really curious to see it.
Killing Mary Sue, the new feature of Hollywood feature film starring Austin Petersen, a cameo. In the very beginning, you'll hear my voice in the first 5 minutes in the radio on the limousine. If you guys want to watch Killing Mary Sue, find it on any of your streaming platforms to rent or to buy. Killing Mary Sue with a nice little cameo from your boy AP, and we'll see you guys tonight on the Freedom Arcade.
Stop by forlibertyshop.com and be free.
Exit through the gift shop at forlibertyshop.com. Have a good Friday the 13th, guys. We'll see you back here tonight at 8 p.m. on the Wake Up America shows for Liberty Network and the Freedom Arcade. Good show today.
And I'll do the
17 years ago, Melinda Vincent was convicted of bank fraud because she paid for groceries with a bad check for $498. Although bank fraud can be punished by up to 30 years in prison under federal law, Vincent was sentenced to probation, which she successfully completed before earning 3 university degrees and launching a career as a social worker. In 2016, she founded the Utah Harm Reduction Coalition, which aims to provide evidence-based interventions to aid people in reducing health and social harms associated with substance use. Vincent, in short, has been law-abiding and productive for many years. But because her 2008 conviction involved a crime punishable by more than a year of incarceration, she permanently lost her Second Amendment rights under 18 U.S.C. 922G. They won. That means she is not legally allowed to own a gun for self-defense or even possess one while hunting with her children. Those burdens, Vincent's lawyers argue in a Supreme Court petition, are unconstitutional as well as unjust. They say the case, Vincent versus Bondi, provides an ideal vehicle for resolving a circuit split on the question of whether the Second Amendment allows the government to disarm people based on nothing more than a nonviolent criminal conviction. Section 922G(1) applies to millions of Americans with no history of violence. According to the Prison Policy Initiative, about 19 million Americans have felony records. In FY 2023, the Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS, reports just 4.4% of federal felony convictions involve violent crimes. Older BJS data indicate that less than a fifth of state felony convictions involve violent offenses. Those numbers, Vincent's petition says, suggest that over 80% of state offenders and over 95% of federal offenders have improperly lost their right to self-defense because of Section 922G(1). Under the test established by the Supreme Court's 2022 decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, the question is whether that policy is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. No, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit concluded in a 2023 case involving a Pennsylvania man who had been convicted of food stamp fraud. As applied to that man, the Third Circuit ruled in Range versus Attorney General, Section 922G(1) failed the Bruin test. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit reached a different conclusion in Vincent's case. In 2023, the appeals court ruled that Bruin did not affect the validity of its prior judgment that the blanket ban imposed by Section 922G(1) is constitutional. It noted that the justices had previously suggested, in the landmark 2008 case District of Columbia versus Heller, that long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons were consistent with the Second Amendment, language that was quoted in Bruin, which didn't appear to question the constitutionality of such laws. The Supreme Court subsequently vacated the 10th Circuit's ruling and remanded the case for reconsideration in light of United States versus Rahimi, its 2024 decision upholding a prosecution for violating the federal ban on gun possession by people subject to domestic violence restraining orders. Last February, the 10th Circuit again rejected Vincent's challenge to Section 922G(1), saying Heller's instruction that felon dispossession laws are presumptively valid was reaffirmed in Rahimi. 3 other federal appeals courts, the Fourth Circuit, the Eighth Circuit, and the 11th Circuit, have agreed that Bruin does not require any distinction among the absurdly broad range of people covered by Section 922(g)(1). But the Fifth Circuit and the Sixth Circuit have joined the Third Circuit in allowing as-applied challenges to the law, although they rejected them in those particular cases. Vincent wants the Supreme Court to resolve this split in favor of the latter view. The 10th Circuit refused to apply the analysis mandated by Bruin and Rahimi, her petition notes. Under that analysis, text, history, and tradition show that the government cannot permanently disarm Ms. Vincent, a single mother, social worker, adjunct college professor, and nonprofit founder with 2 graduate degrees, solely because of one 17-year-old conviction for passing a bad check. When the Second Amendment was ratified in 1791, there was no history or tradition of permanently disarming nonviolent offenders, Vincent's lawyers say. No evidence has emerged of any significant founding-era firearms restrictions on citizens like Ms. Vincent, who committed only nonviolent offenses and posed no physical threat to others. While the historical record suggests that dangerousness sometimes supported disarmament, conviction status alone did not connote dangerousness to the founding generation. The petition emphasizes the lack of early precedent for a gun ban, as sweeping as Section 922(g)(1). No founding-era evidence has emerged of class-wide, lifetime bans on firearms possession, merely because of conviction status. In fact, total bans on felon possession existed nowhere until at least the turn of the 20th century. Vincent's lawyers note that Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, as a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, saw little historical support for the policy embodied in Section 922(g)(1). History demonstrates that legislatures have the power to prohibit dangerous people from possessing guns, Barrett wrote in a 2019 dissent. But that power extends only to people who are dangerous. That category, she thought, did not include someone who was convicted of mail fraud because he misrepresented the characteristics of the shoe inserts he sold. Vincent's petition also cites a 2020 Law Review article by Joseph G.S. Greenlee, Director of Research at the Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, who delves further into the relevant history in a brief that the FPC, joined by the National Rifle Association and the Second Amendment Foundation, filed in support of Vincent's petition. America's historical tradition of firearm regulation provides support for the disarmament of only dangerous persons, disaffected persons posing a threat to the government, and persons with a proven proclivity for violence, the FPC et al. Say. This limited tradition of disarming dangerous persons has been practiced for centuries. It was reflected in the debates and proposed amendments from the Constitution ratifying conventions, and throughout American history. By contrast, there is no tradition of disarming peaceable people, the brief says. Historically, nonviolent criminals, including nonviolent felons, who did not demonstrate a propensity for violence, retained the ability to exercise their right to keep and bear arms. Indeed, some laws expressly allowed or even required them to keep and bear arms. Section 922(g)(1), which UCLA law professor Adam Winkler rightly calls wildly over-inclusive, defies common sense as well as the Second Amendment. The ban, which was first imposed in 1961 as an amendment to the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, applies regardless of how long ago someone was convicted, the nature of the offense, the penalty that was actually imposed, or how the offender has behaved in the years since. To give a sense of how senseless that is, Vincent's lawyers note that adultery is a felony punishable by 5 years imprisonment in Michigan, that repeatedly sharing streaming websites' passwords is a felony in Tennessee, that using a telephone to make a single anonymous call to annoy or embarrass, and temporarily using someone else's car without their consent, are both punishable by more than a year of imprisonment in Maryland, and that recklessly defacing a school building, something countless teenage pranksters have done, is a felony in Arizona. They add that federal law also includes many felonies that involve no danger, such as knowingly and unlawfully exporting any fish or wildlife, and making an unauthorized recording of a movie in a theater. Whether engaging in any of these acts forfeits the right to self-defense is an important question this court should answer, the petition says. And unless the Supreme Court intervenes, Vincent's lawyers warn Section 922G(1) will continue to deter countless peaceful Americans from possessing firearms for self-defense, with no real benefit to public safety.
Hey guys, don't forget to visit our sponsor, the Connector app. Social media is actually keeping us apart and silencing us. It functions more as a steam valve than as a place for connection, a place for us to complain and argue and stay distracted. It feels fake. But the Connector app is a map. It's a map-based social networking designed to help you level up your life by upgrading your peer groups. Now you can network intentionally like the 1% do. Searchable keywords in each profile are used to find exactly whatever you need for friends, for romance, or business connections. I am also a member of the Connector app. It has no algorithms, no shadow bans, and no unreasonable censorship. You can read blogs from your contacts, receive money in a crypto wallet, and get information about events before they happen, even while you're traveling. Early adopters like you will all receive a 5%, you'll share a 5% revenue pool every month in the future, created by libertarians so that we can get back to reality. It's not in app stores. Go to connector.app in your browser, make a profile today. The Connector app, find your kind on a map at connector.app. Have a great day.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.